When the author Sam Harris was 16 years old, he went on a silent retreat for 3 days. Instead of uncovering profound insights about the nature of existence, he found himself miserable. His journal, dedicated for deep reflection, transformed into a list of foods he would gorge on the second he came home. Therefore, he was surprised when some of the people at the retreat described their experience as positive, even transformational. He was left with one baffling question. How could someone's happiness increase when all the material sources of pleasure and distraction had been removed? Today, Sam has some very compelling science-backed answers to this question. This is Detox Dan presenting the top 5 takeaways of Sam Harris Waking Up. Takeaway number 1. The present moment. How we pay attention to the present moment largely determines the character of our experience and therefore the quality of our lives. All we ever have is the present moment. Most of our goal-seeking behavior is just an attempt to allow us to feel happy right now. How many times have you told yourself, I will feel satisfied when ... There is nothing wrong with improving your life situation. In fact, it is your moral responsibility to do that at the best of your ability for both you and your fellow human beings. But there is simply no reason to feel miserable while you do it. The key is to just focus on the step you are taking right now in the right direction, instead of bouncing back and forth between past and future like a tennis ball. There is now a ton of literature that shows how focusing on the present moment influences our experience in the world positively. Mindfulness and meditation, which is a way to practice staying present, increases one's attention span, cognition, and pain perception. It also shows that skills like patience and compassion can be taught through these practices, as we will see in the next takeaways. Takeaway number 2. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is a way to cultivate the quality of one's mind. When we are in a mindful state, we have a quote, clear, non-judgmental, and undistracted attention of the contents of consciousness, whether pleasant or unpleasant, unquote. Being in this state is shown to reduce pain, depression, and anxiety, while increasing cognitive functions like learning and memory. There are 4 foundations to mindfulness: the body with its breathing and posture, feelings, including the senses of pleasure and discomfort, the mind with its moods and attitudes, and lastly, the objects of the mind, which refers both to the 5 senses and mental states. These are things to pay attention to when engaging in mindfulness. If you pay attention to these things closely, you will notice that there is actually nothing passive about the practice. Your breath might change as you get calmer and more focused. Painful or pleasurable thoughts might arise and fade away like clouds on the sky. Your mind is an entire landscape that is worth exploring. In the beginning, this is extremely hard and the progress you do might not be obvious at first. But with time, mindfulness and the accessibility to a clear state of mind will become a well-formed habit. I will break down Sam's favorite method for beginners in takeaway 4. The biggest obstacle to mindfulness is that we are most often lost in thought. When we are thinking without noticing that we are thinking, we get distracted and thereby fail to pay attention to the present. Takeaway number 3. Breaking the spell of thought. Pause this video and sit with your eyes closed for 60 seconds and try not to think. Unless you have years of practice in meditation, the task was almost certainly impossible. This ongoing mental dialogue, which most of us has little control over, is often at the core of unnecessary suffering. We can address the problem on 2 different levels. The first one is on the level of thought. We can practice seeing the glass as half full. Whenever faced with a negative situation in life, you have 2 choices. Let your mental dialogue rampage freely and complain about every aspect of the situation, or you can calmly and patiently do what is required to solve it. This doesn't require any meditation skill and can be worked towards starting this second. The other level, however, is not to be attached to thoughts altogether, and it does require some mindfulness practice. Sam doesn't promise that you won't ever feel angry again, but with practice, the duration for which you carry the negative emotion can shrink from days to seconds. Here is how. When a negative emotion arises, look at it closely with curiosity. Don't judge yourself for feeling this way. Just stay with the emotion without any resistance. Ask yourself, who is observing the emotion? Is the observer of the emotion actually angry? Or is it merely an expression in the body that is separate from your consciousness? By investigating the feeling intensely, in a mindful state, it will soon fade away. Takeaway number 4. How to walk a tightrope. Step 1. Find a horizontal rope. Step 2. Stand on it on one end. Step 3. Put one foot in front of the other. Step 4. Repeat. Step 5. Don't fall. Meditation can be described in almost equally simple terms. There is no need to learn some advanced chanting while banging a drum. Meditation is, however, extremely hard to master. You can think about getting lost in thought as falling off the rope. It is part of the long and grueling process to mastery. But each time, simply get up and try again. The benefits of meditation will be reaped long before mastery. A significant increase in mood has been shown after 5 minutes of meditation daily for only 5 weeks. Meditation is a technique for waking up. The goal is to come out of the trance of discursive thinking and to stop reflexively grasping at the pleasant and recoiling from the unpleasant, so that we can enjoy a mind undisturbed by worry, merely open like the sky, and effortlessly aware of the flow of experience in the present. How to meditate. 1. Find a comfortable position, preferably with your spine erect. 2. Become aware of the contact points between you and the ground and take a few deep breaths. 3. Pay attention to the process of breathing. Feel it in your nostrils or the motion of the abdomen. 4. Let your attention rest there and breathe as naturally as possible. 5. Every time your mind wanders in thought, gently guide the attention back to the breath. 6. Other feelings will start to appear, like bodily sensations and emotions. Observe them as they appear, and then guide the attention back to the breath. 7. The same can be done for thoughts. Observe them as nothing more than objects of consciousness. 8. Repeat this until you can keep your attention intact and observe the thoughts as a mere witness of consciousness. Takeaway number 5. The illusion of the self. Most of us live life as if we are an observer placed somewhere behind our eyes. There is a big gap between experience itself and the observer. This tiny little pilot in our heads is the one who has conversations with our minds. When you find your keys and exclaim, "Oh, there they are," who are you actually talking to? This illusory self is born when we identify ourselves with the thoughts in our heads. That means when we are thinking without being aware that we are thinking. In this state we are confused about who and even what we are. But when you pay attention to the present moment, you will notice that there is consciousness, which is ultimately you, who is paying attention to the thoughts. If all your thoughts were to disappear for a while, you would still very much exist, perhaps even more so than before. With meditation practice, you will start to break the illusion of the self. In the first state of progress, you will be able to recognize your thoughts in consciousness without any confusion. In the last stage of progress, you will become like an empty house where the thoughts are thieves. There is simply nothing there to take, and the possibility of getting distracted by them is totally eradicated. When the illusion of the self is broken, we are left in a state of constant clarity, filled with joy, compassion, and love. Both the scientific and anecdotal evidence shows this clearly, and now it is up to you to experience it yourself. That was it for my top 5 takeaways of Sam Harris waking up. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.